Hey everybody, we're back for another edition of What's Going On Under the Gold Dome. As you know, we are now complete with the 2016 session of the General Assembly. We went through what we refer to as sine die last Thursday, and a lot of things have transpired, and we're going to talk about some of those things today. But before we get started, why don't everybody take a moment, introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started.
My name is Billy Mitchell. I represent the 88th Legislative District, which is primarily DeKalb County. I'm also Vice Chairman of the House Democratic Caucus.
Hi, I'm Camilla Moore. I'm the President and CEO of EMJW Strategy Group, which is a political Republican consulting firm, and I live in unincorporated South Fulton, and I just love it.
We are nonpartisan on this this group here.
Well, I just named my firm, what we do. You told me to introduce myself.
I say nonpartisan because we want to know that we include everybody.
Right,
you know.
That's correct. Very inclusive, as a matter of fact.
We want to include everybody.
My name is Louis Bell, and I'm a retired Delta captain, international captain, and I have been a resident of unincorporated South Fulton for the last 38 years, and have been very pleased to be here with you, sir, and to have the discussion on one of the momentous occasions that we've been able to celebrate, and look forward to the governor being at the party with us.
There you go. And in your case, we can definitely say you've seen the skies. And I'm Roger Bruce. I'm the state representative from District 61. I represent South Fulton County, parts of Douglas County, parts of Cobb County. And I'm the sponsor of a bill that we'll be talking about shortly. But I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Hello, I'm Linda Bryant, Vice President of the Fulton County School Board. And I represent District 4, which is a part of what we're trying to annex, the annexation bill.
Okay, let's make sure I'm clear. You said you're trying to annex, or you're trying to not be annexed?
Trying not to be annexed, for sure, okay? That was not what I said. I'm trying not to be annexed at this point because it would be very, very disruptive to our schools.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on what we're doing.
We don't like that word annexation.
Yeah. And so, Billy, why don't we just jump right into this thing? You and I have had one heck of a session, and some good things, some bad things. You know, what some of the things that you really want to talk about? What bills kind of struck you the most?
I think that every conversation regarding the legislature should begin and end with the budget. Almost a $23 billion budget, and constitutionally that is the only thing that we are required to do is pass a balanced budget. I'm happy to say that we did that with not a lot of acrimony, and in fact it has, Member Bryant, you may appreciate it, offers some raises to teachers.
3%. Was it 3%, correct?
3%, and certainly to retirees. It offers raises to retirees as well. So that was a good thing, the budget. I don't believe that there were any real losers in this budget, and so that's something that both sides, Democrats and Republicans, can be proud of.
And just so as all of us know, the lion's share of our budget is based on education.
True.
And it is still less than what we were putting in years ago, but it is more than what it was last year.
Absolutely.
Am I being accurate there?
Oh, no question about it.
Yeah.
And as Board Member Bryant knows, and you know, Roger, the fact of the matter is school districts that are in counties like Fulton and DeKalb, we are donor school districts. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the resources that our counties produce go to more rural and smaller and less affluent counties so that their school districts can meet a certain standards. You know, I've heard a lot of people say if we were just allowed to keep the resources that we generate,
we'd be in good shape.
We would be in good shape, no question about that. But the budget certainly has passed, and it certainly treats teachers and retirees generously.
And out of that budget also, as I said, education is the top. Then you have transportation, and then you have health care, or health services, and then you have everything else, pretty much. Is that your observation of it as well?
No question about it. Certainly, it's amazing how much we spend on our criminal justice system, particularly incarceration as well. And I must give our governor credit where credit is certainly due. He saw the foolishness of concentrating on just incarceration, and now there are programs to certainly not be quick to incarcerate, but to rehabilitate, and particularly when it comes to drug use, for instance, there are more and more drug courts to treat people. Very oftentimes our criminal justice systems, you can divide them into two categories: people that are just bad people who should be incarcerated, and some people we quite frankly are just mad at. And we send people to jail because we're mad at them, and we find that comes back with just a high price tag, and it really doesn't benefit the intended beneficiaries.
That price tag goes beyond just incarceration. There's all this stuff that comes afterwards too.
And I think it's about fair sentencing. You want to make sure that the sentencing is fair across the board. And I think that in the African American community nationally, the sentencing for drug and selling of drugs has not been the same. Racially, it has not been the same. So for the state of Georgia to recognize that fair sentencing is required, and that, you shouldn't separate families because, someone was selling marijuana, which is legal in so many states right now, and give them 15 years, and someone else gets 2 years.
We're going to talk about that in a second, too, about the marijuana. Did you have anything you want to say about the budget as it relates to the school system?
Basically, we're very pleased that the governor did see fit to give the teachers a 3% increase, but that's on the state budget. When Fulton County pays more than what's on the state budget, so we have to supplement that with a few $1 million in order for the teachers to get. But what we are doing this time is we're giving a 5% increase, which means that we had to come up with even more money to pay our teachers.
And is that going to all the teachers?
All of them.
Great.
That's correct.
I'm married to a teacher. That's right.
So yes, we are giving a little bit more to our teachers. We need to give the teachers fair increases, because the problem with education with us in Fulton County, and I would say across the board in education, is that we are not educating as many teachers as we need. The need is greater than, it's called supply and demand.
Yeah.
And we have a demand, and the supply is limited.
Okay.
So therefore, we have to do something to attract teachers to our district, which is a great district.
It is.
Well, since Carmelia brought up the marijuana, you want to talk a little bit about about that bill and what transpired?
Well, unfortunately, in the eyes of the author, Representative Alan Peake out of Macon, that bill did not prevail, in that it would have expanded the uses that you could use medical marijuana, namely post-traumatic stress syndrome, some forms of cancer. There was even an earlier provision that would have allowed for marijuana to be manufactured and distributed in the state.
In the state.
Now, I want to tell you something. As you know, Representative Bruce, the foolishness in our present marijuana law, you could use it. You can use medicinal marijuana, but you can't get it You have to go to a state where you can get it, and then you have to transport it across states that say you can't do that. That's exactly right. So you have to illegally bring it to use it, and certainly someone has to realize the foolishness in that. We're saying you can use it, but there's no way they can get it legally in the state. And something needs to be done about that. We are prudes when it comes to drug use in this state. If we're going to allow folks to use it medicinally, then we have to find a legal way for them to obtain it. Certainly, I don't know your position on whether you think medicinal marijuana is helpful or not. There's a debate on that. There's medical experts that say yes. There's medical experts that say no. However, if it's the law that you can use it, then we must make it available for people who wish to obey the law to obtain it.
Yeah, I think the jury is still out on whether or not, from the medical community, and I think that's the missing piece of this, is that the medical community has not spoken out one way or the other on this thing.
And it's a slippery slope. I mean, all of us understand that, does it open Pandora's box? When you're trying to help some, can it be abused? What I always tell people is that pharmaceutical companies are real smart. They know how to put everything else in a pill. I just think that to get over this issue, I think that once pharmaceuticals look at a way of putting it in a capsule, I think that makes it more acceptable, because just like any other drug that comes from plants that you use for medical purposes, you have it in a capsule form. But we're in the Bible Belt, and it's just a slippery slope for a lot of people. But if it's medically sound and proven by the medical society,
but that's the piece that's missing, is that the medical community has not taken an official position. Yeah.
The medical community might not have taken a position, but the patients who need it, those who are suffering, their position is stated by their lives every day. Now, if you can control everything else that enters this state, and you can distribute everything else that comes into this state, surely there is a vehicle that can be used to control that. So the question then comes, why not have it in? Who then is reaping the benefit of it?
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
And the people who are not reaping the benefit are those who need it the most.
Okay. Let's move on to another topic.
I was going to say, I just think the cost goes up in terms of who controls it.
Yeah.
Then you have to have a state agency, and that's resources, and where do you find the money to actually monitor and govern, how it comes in, who distributes it, and that's a financial cost.
It's a big thing. Billy, you and I represent the only two counties that participate in MARTA. And, I take that back. Now there's three. It was two for so long, but now Clayton has joined us. And as you know, MARTA got, a little bit in this legislative process too. You want to talk about that? Do you?
I will tell you, it's a shame where we are now. This could be a show in and of itself, Representative Bruce, but it's a shame how the majority of this state treats mass transportation. I will tell you, I've had the fortune in my lifetime to live in many other metropolitan areas, and I will tell you, if you were to go to Washington, D.C., you have some of the most wealthiest citizens and some of the poorest riding mass transit side by side.
Because it makes sense.
Exactly. If you were to go to New York, the mass transit goes through some of the most impoverished neighborhoods as well as the most affluent neighborhoods, and people ride without any problems whatsoever. But for some reason, when the concept of mass transit was to come to this metropolitan area, folks viewed it, particularly, and still some today, the closer you are to mass transit, the less value your property is. And I will tell you, it's the opposite in other metropolitan areas.
Yeah, I grew up in New York, so I saw it.
Know exactly.
Yeah, I saw it all over the place. But we did have issues here with people feeling that mass transit, especially back in the day, was going to allow people who they didn't want in their communities to come into their community,
That's exactly right.
rob their house and get on the bus and
with the
TV and go back.
With a 20-inch TV.
Yeah, but that's part of the problem still, is that people view mass transit as a vehicle for undesirable people to come into their community, which is absolutely just not the case.
It's certainly not.
So,
What is happening now, very fortunately, and why that mindset is changing ever so slowly but changing, is that you have the so-called millennial generation, which they don't want automobiles. They want to be close to what's going on. They want to be close to downtown Atlanta. They don't want to fight traffic. And as a result of that, new corporations that are coming to this region are asking, among the first things that they're inquiring about is, what is the transportation like? We don't want our people having to drive 2 or 3 hours back and forth to work. What is mass transit is like? So we're finally starting to change that mindset. I happen happened to sit on MARTOC, which is the oversight committee for MARTA, and I saw the original plans for MARTA, and had we did that when the original plans were just extraordinary. They included subways, they included mass transit as far out as Gwinnett. There was even plans for a super train to go from Atlanta to Savannah. It was just amazing. And we had all the resources we needed. We had a favorable president. At that time, Jimmy Carter was the president and was giving Atlanta and Georgia anything they wanted. We had a governor that wanted it, but for some reasons, the suburbs,
for the reasons we talked about earlier,
did not wish to have it. And had that were the case today, the economic growth in the Atlanta metropolitan is extraordinary. But had that been,
it would have been even more.
That's exactly right.
But there are some historical and cultural differences between the Northeast and the South. You know, as an urban planner professionally, the South believes in driving all over the place. You know, we'd rather drive 50 miles than to catch, rapid transit. But the issue, and I'll be blunt about it, a lot of it had to do with race, and I'm just being real. But the race issues were based on misconceptions of what transit would do.
Right.
And how it would change certain demographics across the state of Georgia. That mindset has changed, but for me, when you talk to people that get outside of the metro that deals with transit and transportation planning, you have to have a directive from the top. And one thing that I will say is that I am still waiting on a governor who believes in mass transit, because local authorities have to disappear, and you have to have a statewide mandate that takes over transit.
And I think we're going to head that way shortly. But again, we're going to go through some of these topics kind of quick. But one of the other bills that a good bill. And, we keep talking about the ones that weren't so good, but a good bill that went through was about the rape kits. You want to talk about the rape kits?
Absolutely. In our state, unfortunately, we have just literally hundreds of untested rape kits. When someone has fallen victim to a rape, when they are medically examined, there's actually a kit that the law enforcement uses to preserve certain evidence, to make certain that they can be able to at least try to apprehend any suspects, and the rape kit preserves that evidence until they're finally able to track that person down. Supposedly, because our law enforcement is so overburdened, there were rape kits that were literally sitting on shelves for years. And
the other side of that is that, in addition to what you said, there are people in jail who might be exonerated if they analyze these rape kits to find out that, well, this person didn't do it.
That's exactly right. And with the way science is today, just the mere testing of these kits could identify who is the perpetrator, or as Representative Bruce said, say, well, this person could not have done that. And so, that is just an injustice. It's a disservice to the entire state when there are rapists who are out there who could be apprehended, and there are people who may be accused and are innocent. For some reason, and I don't know anyone, perhaps could articulate why the Senate wanted to uphold that bill.
I have no idea. I'm being told that, I'm being told all kinds of stuff, and you're probably hearing the same things, but there's no logical reason. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. That
logical
bill
reason.
makes it, to me, that wasn't a Democratic bill or a Republican bill. That was the right thing
to do. And finally, it went through. At the wee hours of the night, that one went through. I think that one hit right at midnight.
Yeah, it looked like it wasn't going to be.
So what does it allow?
It will provide some resources, and it will mandate a time as to when these rape kits have to be addressed.
And they can go back years and solve a lot of cases that have not been solved.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about another good thing that happened today. As a matter of fact, on the way in, we all got word that the governor vetoed the so-called religious freedom bill, RFRA, as has become known. How does that impact? Let's hear from our school board member. What do you think that does? him vetoing it?
Oh, I'm not real sure how it's going to impact the school board and what it does with the school board. But from listening to all of the news media, it says we would not be getting many large conventions or anything of that nature coming to the state if the bill had passed. But it did not. So thank God we got out of that.
Well, the bill passed, and you know, I told my Republican colleague I was going to tease her a little bit about this one. That you know, this was one of those, in my opinion, and I don't know how you feel about it. This was one of those get out the vote kind of bills, but it would have put a lot of people in a bad situation. You know, the state should not be involved. I don't need this thing here, but the state, I got one on. The state should not be involved in any kind of discrimination against anybody.
Absolutely.
And that's what this bill did. So I told her I was going to give her a little grief about, you know, the Republicans pushing this thing, but I'll let you talk about
Well,
it.
you know, I think there was a split within my party in terms of, well, there was.
Good to hear.
You know, religious conservatives, they're very adamant about their rights, and from their view, the bill was about protecting them, okay, and their right to do certain things and to protect their religious freedom. On the other side, there are those who felt that it infringed upon their rights. So, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think religious conservatives are going to be happy. At the end of the day, I think the governor and the Chamber of Commerce and the business community are going to be happy. But I think that people just need to remember that when people take ideological views on certain things, they're very passionate about it, and there's tunnel vision in terms of why I believe a certain way. And people that are deep in terms of their religious faith, when you talk to them, they don't see it as discrimination, but they actually see it as infringing on what they can do from a religious perspective.
Okay, we don't want to run out of time here, but you want to say something else on that?
You know, the reason why these kind of bills are so dangerous, and I'm so glad that you're here and you said that there was a split, is because everyone, when we talk about religious freedom, we look at religion from the eyes of our religious experience. What folks don't understand is tomorrow I can start a religion that says that I dislike people who wear red dresses, right? You know, and based on these kinds of laws, we would have to respect those kinds of things. So I believe the state has an obligation not to get involved in those kinds of issues, because we all look at it from our own prism. And number two, more importantly, and why this is good, bad, ugly, wrapped all in once, there was nothing in this bill that would have changed what is already present law.
Okay.
You know, I can go to, you know, when I went to my minister to get married, he said, you can't get married unless you go through this long course.
Yeah.
I mean, and so.
I don't want to cut you off, but we got one more topic we got to cover, and then we're going to be over with. Let's talk about this guns on the campus.
You know, this is another.
No one of the Republican things here.
You know, I'm not a prude when it comes to police officers. When we first passed the bill, Representative Bruce last year talking about, you know, virtually guns anywhere, I had a town hall meeting because it was so ambiguous what you could and could not do. I wanted my community to know, if you're going to buy a gun, what can you do, what can't. I had more business people there saying, if I want to exclude people from my business, the police chief from my county gave the training, and he said to me, he said, look, if you live in your home, you'd probably be better off having a gun, because if someone breaks into your home and realizes that you have no way of protecting yourself, you know, a police job at that point is to come take the reports and try to find them much later, you know. So I'm not a prude when it comes to weapons, but, you know, give you a case in point while I say this is sheerly about votes, partisan votes. I propose that, you know, if you're going to have a gun in your home, you know the statistics.
But we're not talking about home. We're talking about guns on a college campus.
Yeah, we get to that. You are more likely, if you own a gun, you're more likely to injure a loved one or yourself than you are some intruder. Now, pass that down to 21-year-olds on a college campus. They won't even allow, all right, if you're going to allow these students to have guns, why don't you require that they get some training?
Yep.
How to store it, how to protect it, how to keep it from injuring yourself.
And not have possession of it while you at the tailgate party getting drunk.
You know, police officers tell me, you know, the number, even if you have a gun legally and you use it wrong, you know, someone breaks into your house and you use it, you know, you don't use it, the use of deadly force should be used in certain circumstances. Right. Now, if you know, you may legally have it, but if you use it incorrectly, you're still in trouble.
Right.
They're not have people learn those
Well,
things.
I'm a farm,
real quick, because we're going to have to wrap it
girl,
up.
and I own a lot of equipment. Okay. You know, I just think that
I've heard you say that you're a farm girl. I bet you don't know nothing about a cow, but go ahead.
That's all right. I know how to milk one. But what I'm saying is that, you know, I think the bill would have been better if it had certain requirements in terms of training or where you can have it. But mixing alcohol and weapons for young folks is kind of dangerous.
Come on
okay?
over. Come on over.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'm an NRA. I got my membership, so I
Oh,
believe in
Lord.
guns and packing. Okay.
She might have one now. Leave her alone.
I do have to carry
Any
one.
last comments you want before we wrap this up?
As I think about the gun law, it's very difficult to imagine the immaturity of someone at 18 years old, 19, 20, and give them just a little bit of alcohol and have a dispute. And
Or what about, you know, you've been messing with my girlfriend.
my
Boom.
girlfriend, no question.
You know, what about you just gave me an F on my test?
Exactly.
Boom.
Yeah,
Thought you were going to assault me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've just seen a movie that validates my opinion and what I need to do, so I'm going to go out and now I'm going to use my gun.
And what happens if if there is an incident on campus, and the police come on campus and several people have guns? I just don't think the police are going to say, are you the good guy or the bad guy, before they open fire if they see you with a gun.
No
Did you
question.
have something you wanted to say on that before we wrap up?
We just had 2 police officers who just got angry with each other, and one drew a gun. So the thing of it is when you deal with guns, I was a probation officer, so I'm very familiar with guns and how much training you need to use a gun and this kind of thing. It's just a bad idea to have a teenager or a 21-year-old with a gun, period.
Well, I appreciate everybody. We're going to have another segment that will talk about the city of South Fulton. I know, Billy, you guys got issues in DeKalb County that are a little different than Fulton County as it relates to cities. But we're going to continue this conversation and talk about South Fulton and the possibility of a city there. But I want to thank everybody. You know, you guys will be part of that next conversation. But Billy, I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me
And
on this distinguished panel.
hopefully you've enjoyed it. And we appreciate you.